Can you see both of us?
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. This is Dolores, Dr. Barbo from Neighborhood Connections, and we're back with our program. And this one that we're dealing with some difficult moments. No, we've been dealing with some problems of memory loss. We've been dealing with changes in our life. Now we're looking at facing some more difficult situations. And I've brought to help me Frank McCaffrey, who lives in Weston. And I'm just going to let Frank tell you a little bit, who are you? What do you do? Who have you been?
I'm a retired state court judge. I was on the state court bench for 24 years, sitting mostly in Rutland, White River, Bennington. I retired from full-time judging in 2004, and for the last 10 years I've been sitting in the Rutland Treatment Court. Most of the folks who are there are opiate addicts, so we work through some of their difficulties, legal and otherwise, to try to help them find recovery and a peace with the criminal justice system.
That's a lot. And for those of you who don't know, the program that Frank and the court run is actually quite famous throughout Vermont. No, I understand you have graduation programs and. We
do, and it's a national program. Each area has its own nuances, but there are drug courts all over the country, mental health courts, drug courts, veterans courts, all to teach, work with people who have mental health and addiction issues, as well as trauma issues. So it's been, for me, it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Okay, well that's all very nice, but the last couple of weeks, something really big has happened in your life which changed it a little bit. Could you tell everybody out there what happened?
Well, about a month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I had been experiencing a little maybe an ache on my left side, and it wasn't anything that I would medicate for. It was just there. I saw Dolores, and she suggested that I have a heart workup, which I did. I'd never had that. I went to the Rutland Heart Center, had an EKG and a stress test, and I was given wonderful news that I would probably, as far as my heart was concerned, I would live to be 100. So I left that feeling quite good, but I still had the little ache.
You have to understand this little ache was only when he sneezed or
Yawned.
Yawned, right.
Right.
That was all. Okay, go ahead.
Then it was still there, and we were going to go away for a while, and so Dolores suggested that I have a chest x-ray, which I did, and it showed a spot near my left lung and heart. And then she suggested a CAT scan, all at Springfield, and I had the CAT scan, and I was then diagnosed with lung cancer in both lungs that had metastasized. I then went to Dartmouth for a PET scan, a brain scan, and a bronchoscopy, all of which was quite an adventure. It confirmed the diagnosis, and that was the beginning.
What did that feel like that night that I went over to the house and we sat and I said, Frank and Rita, you have lung cancer.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Well,
do you remember even? Because it feels like in these last 2 or 3 weeks a lot has happened.
It has. A lot has happened. I would describe it as an awakening. I think that I'll be 80 in April, so mortality hasn't been foreign to me. But on the other hand, I think we live in a certain amount of denial when we see people, certainly my age, who have health issues. But it's always out there. It's never quite us, although in some ways I guess it is. So for me it was an awakening. It brought forth a lot of the issues that we all have to deal with. How do we want to live? How do we want to deal with this disease? Who do we share it with? What kinds of medications, treatment is available? And that's a big part of it, because as I went through this, I learned that there were many options. And so how did I feel? It brings you to a truth.
Were you mad?
No, I wasn't mad. I think that I had read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of how we go through these experiences. One of them is anger. I didn't have that. I had a little denial. I figured, well, they didn't get it right. So at the next scan, they'll show that it was somebody else and not me. But that didn't happen. I think depression is a part of it. I think for me, wow, this affects our family, it affects me. Where do we go with this? I didn't have that. I had some depression, but I didn't have the anger, which is one of the steps. And another step was that they described, Kubler-Ross described as bargaining. Well, I didn't have that either. The last step is an interesting step, and that is acceptance. Do we accept the disease? For me, that was a hard one, because I couldn't quite get my head around that one. And I spoke with one of the monks about that and how they sense that. And one of the keys with this disease is that, for me, you can't do it alone. You need family, friends, doctors, healers, resources to get through this. So one of the resources I used was one of the monks at the Priory, and his reflection was that, we are given life. Life is given to us through our parents, and I guess ultimately through our God. And one of the ways in addressing the acceptance piece is that at some point we give it back. We give back our lives, perhaps a bit scarred, with all the warts that go with it, but we give it back. And so that's how I've dealt with the acceptance piece. How mature is it? I don't know. It's day to day. It's prayer. It's going through all the medical things. It's being with other people. It's a journey.
When you first spoke with me, I knew this, but you didn't. And then you went up to Dartmouth and asked outright some questions and found that the prognosis might be less than a year.
I asked, one of the questions you would ask is, what is the prognosis? Well, first of all, what is the diagnosis? And the diagnosis was stage 4, and I knew that wasn't great. Then I asked the prognosis, and the prognosis was months.
What was that like?
It gets your attention. You think about a lot of things that, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with my The way I dealt with it was gratitude. I've had a good life. I've had a wonderful family. Our kids are all in a good place. The kids all came around and helped with different aspects of things we had to deal with. So after getting through the awakening, the jolt, my feeling was gratitude that I have a lot to be grateful for. How many live to be 80? How many have had the gifts that I've been given with friends, family, living on the Priory grounds? All of this has been gift, and if I could not live from that place of gratitude, if I had to live from a place of anxiety, frustration, why me? How did this happen? And I was not a smoker. That was an interesting aspect of this. I never smoked. My family smoked, our parents smoked, but I never smoked. And I kept thinking about, initially I thought about, well, how did this happen? And I came to the point that it went nowhere, that kind of reflection. The anxiety only created more anxiety. Why did it happen? Only created more frustration. And one of the doctors at Dartmouth, when I asked him, well, how do you think this happened? And when he saw the pathology that all of my other organs were clear, brain, kidneys, pancreas, all of it was clear, that I was not a smoker, his reflection was, well, maybe it's just bad luck. And while we don't like to think in those terms, it helped me get out of my own head to try to figure it out, because I couldn't. And even if I did figure it out, I'm not sure how happy I would have been with whatever came out of that. So I got away from that.
This is a crazy question, but would you have rather not known? I've had patients who got very upset when I told them what was happening. Would you rather have not known and gone on with life till you got sick?
I don't think so. I mean, I've always been very health conscious. I had prostate cancer 20 years ago. I had the gland out, and then it came back, and I had the site radiated. And that, from the last 10 years, I've had no PSA indication that I've had prostate cancer. So I had the experience a little bit of the cancer, but I felt, in a way, well, I'm over this. I'm not going to get cancer again. When I go, it'll be a heart attack, or I'll get run over, or some other catastrophe. So that was a piece of it that I thought I was beyond the cancer issues. But would I have wanted to know about it? Yeah, I think I did because you're in a position to prepare. And I think in terms of preparation, we're going to die. I'm okay with that. I know of no one who was immortal. And how do we do that? And I think that we die the way we live. And if we live in a way that's realistic, that acknowledges our own mortality, our weaknesses, our strengths, our gratitude for what has happened, I think we can prepare. And I'm pleased that I know. I begin the treatment this week, so that's another chapter. But yes, I'm glad I know. I don't think I would have wanted to not know and gotten sick and
So you have some good time to do some stuff. You said to me, one of these talks we've had, you know, we go around and we do birth plans all the time, and we do. People get ready to have a delivery, and they put stuff in a suitcase, and they think who they want there, and do they want it in the hospital or at home, and do they want a doula or whatever.
Yeah.
And you make a birth plan.
Yeah.
And you said to me, so we should make a death plan. What did you mean? What kind of things would you look at?
Well, I did not have any, one of the things I did not have to look at, which many do, are reconciliation issues. I did not have that.
That's huge, actually.
That is a big one. So we didn't have that. I think that you do the things that you need to do, the wills, the money, cleaning up some of the things around the house that you don't need. But the real preparation, I think, is a prayerful one. I think it's one that you try to get into the presence of your family, loved ones, your God, and begin the process. One of the things that I was clear about in preparation was that in terms of the treatment, I was willing and am willing to go through the initial chemo treatment, which in my case is oral, which has fewer side effects, and which may contain the cancer. I don't know. The prognosis is higher than if it was infused chemo. The results are lower. The containment is lower. So I was willing to go through that. But until I had learned that I could be treated that way, I had sort of made the decision that I was not going to be killed with the cure. I did not want to go through, and do not want to go through, a very aggressive chemotherapy treatment, which would immobilize me, rob me of my healthy cells, live with the nausea, all of those things, to get a few more months. I decided, well, I don't think I want to live that way. I wanted a quality of life. I made that clear to the doctors in terms of the treatment. And as a result of that, I'm in a clinical trial where I will receive oral chemo, and where there are some side effects, but not ones that would rob me of a quality of life.
So it sounds like you're really choosing to use whatever time there is and really live.
I want to live.
Yeah.
I want to live, and I know I'm going to die. I mean, that's the reality is that we will die. So how do we live in preparation with this? What does our faith call us to? Is death the end?
I don't know. What do you think is going to happen to you?
My faith tells me that it isn't an end. It's certainly the most significant mystery that we live. We don't know anyone who's come back but one. We know the promises that our faith offers to us, and I think we have to trust that.
What's the biggest thing that's changed inside of you in the last few weeks? Can you even know?
I don't know. The cancer certainly has changed. I'm more sensitive to all the little aches that you have, and you say, well, this is it. This is the cancer. And in reality, it isn't. We all have our our backaches, our little coughs and colds and things, and so not a lot has changed. I feel very good. I have no symptoms that are significant. I have no significant symptoms. I have no pain. I wonder at times, can I be this sick and feel so good? So I take it as a gift. That may change, but right now, I'm in a good place.
Okay. And you said to me at one point also that death is actually a public event. What did you mean?
Well, we live in our little communities. We live in family. We have our work community. At Weston, we have our community of Priory friends. We have our relatives. We all live in bunches, so to speak. So when we start missing things, when we start telling folks that we're going to a doctor, one of the first responses is always, is it serious? And I'm not sure how to deal with that, but we had to deal with it. So the way we dealt with it was that it was going to get out, and how do we want it to get out? So what we did was Rita and I created an email to send to friends, to family, to folks we wanted to know, to tell the story, in a couple of paragraphs, but to get it out in the way we wanted it out, to help others as they might have to deal with it. Also, it eliminates a lot of having to rehash it with people individually. They see it, they can see how we're dealing with it. We tell them that we are trying to walk in the light. We are trying to live with the disease in a way that is as positive as it can be. We are grateful for family. We are grateful for our doctors. We are grateful for where we're getting treatment. But we move on. We walk. And the disease has a tendency to paralyze you. And we didn't want to go that way. We wanted to continue to walk with it, to walk with our life, our friends, our family, and that's how we're dealing with it.
How has it been when people come up to you after that?
It's been good having the notice. You don't have to deal with the pause and, wow, I never knew that. You look so healthy. How could it be? And you can't answer those things. So having given the notice, the way when people come up to us, what they do is, you can see it in their eyes, in their expression. We are with you. We get an embrace. And that's restoring. It's that we don't go through it alone.
What's it been like for Rita, and what's it been like for the two of you as a two?
Well, before we knew of this, Rita had an episode of breast cancer. As I indicated, I had prostate cancer. So we had began to talk about, the reality that we're not going to go together. One of us will go first. How do we want to prepare for that? So we had done a lot of that. So when this came, the conversation took on a new urgency. It took on different dimensions, but it wasn't a conversation that was foreign to us. It's very hard for the caregiver. One of the things that she's going to engage in while I'm engaging in the chemo treatment at Dartmouth is a caregiver's support group. So that's a good thing. But we've been together, we've been married for almost 56 years, we've been together 58. So we have a lot to be grateful for. The journey's been wonderful.
When I was talking with both of them, at one point Rita said to me that, Mac was smitten with me from the first moment he saw me, and she's so sure of that, and she has walked in the strength and light of that for all of these 58 years.
Well,
and
I'm not sure. I mean, it's been beautiful. It's been challenging. It's been all of what a relationship is involved with, but mostly it's been a gift.
Mostly it's been a gift. And one of the things that I know you're going to miss more than anything is mowing the lawn, which you love to do on that power thing. But I guess I would hope, I think there's been other things that have been taking place. You've been reading some good books.
Yeah.
No? You've been talking to different people.
Right. There's some books on it. There are all kinds of ways that you can prepare yourself for it. But ultimately, it's how have others dealt with it? And you learn that some people die well. They die with dignity. But all those folks have lived with dignity. And I think that's the challenge. We live the way we die. We die the way we live. We walk with it.
Yeah. Well, there's some stuff to think about here. At one point, we interviewed Brother John, and if you were part of that broadcast, you heard Brother John say what you said, which was, life is a gift, and part of what we're doing is learning to give it back. And I thank you for being willing to share what you're going through right now.
Well, thank you for all of the support you've given me. And I wonder at the doctors and healers who have to deal with this. It's not easy. It's not easy. And sometimes there isn't the remedy we would hope for, but yet there is the walk that we pray for.
And there's the gift that your living has given to us. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Tune in the next time. We are very grateful that you joined us today. And don't be afraid to come up to Frank if you see him on the street. As you can see, he's who he is, and he's very much present to what's now. Thank you. Thank you, sir.